Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and dear delegates. You are very welcome today to this Global Gateway Forum 2025, and a very warm welcome as well to those of you joining online from across Europe and around the world. I'm Jennifer Baker. I will be your MC this morning, introducing you to our dear leaders and giving you some practical information as well. This renewed Global Gateway Forum opens a strategic conversation to discuss the opportunities and the constraints of investment partnerships with political leaders from all business sides and financiers from all sides as well. The agenda will kick off this morning with an exchange on the state of the world. You will hear from our dear leaders who will join us from this side of the stage. And now, to kick things off, let's have a quick look at a video to set the scene. So I think we can all agree that the next 2 days of the Global Gateway Forum promise to be fruitful and inspiring. So now we will commence by hearing from our leaders, but first, to formally start proceedings, it is my great pleasure to introduce Her Excellency, President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen.
My fellow leaders, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Welcome to the second Global Gateway Forum. It has been now 4 years since we launched Global Gateway, and in that time, the world has changed profoundly. We are now well into an era of highly competitive and transactional global politics. Tariffs and trade barriers are back as a tool of geopolitics and geoeconomics. Export controls have become a tool of statecraft to damage competitors and extract concessions. Dependencies are weaponized, including those created by unsustainable foreign investments, which have left too many countries burdened with unsustainable debts. Faced with that reality, advanced economies, emerging markets, and developing nations are asking the same urgent questions. How do we build strategic strength at home? How do we break free from dependencies? How do we diversify our partnerships and make them reliable? And how do we ensure access to capital, resources, and the technology we need to thrive? Excellencies, we are all adapting to the realities of this new economy. We're trying to strengthen our autonomy in strategic sectors, from clean energy to artificial intelligence. The list is long. These are the building blocks of the new global economy. They will enable us to compete, to sustain our industries, to secure lives and livelihoods, and to determine our own future. And this is true to all of us here in the room. But we also recognize that independence does not mean isolation. Value chains are too complex and too global to go it alone. So the way forward is through partnerships. Partnerships based on common interests and respect for sovereignty. And that is what unites us here today. That is Europe's approach. Like you, we recognize that our strength relies on diversifying our relationships. And that's why we are expanding our network of free trade agreements. Let me give you some examples. In the last year alone, we have reached new trade deals with Mercosur and Mexico. We secured an initial agreement with Indonesia. We're now in talks with India and want to conclude before the end of this year. We're advancing with Malaysia, the United Arab Emirates, and others. All agreements are designed to boost economic security on both sides. And this is exactly a similar approach that we are taking internationally for investment with Global Gateway. Global Gateway is about mutual benefits. Our initial goal was to mobilize 300 billion euros in 5 years. But today we have already hit that target. In 4 years, we have already mobilized more than 306 billion euros, and I'm confident that we will surpass 400 billion by 2027. And this shows what we can achieve when we align together our strategic priorities and channel investments to where they have the greatest impact. When we do so, we strengthen our economies and secure our autonomy. And we want to work with you, all of you here in the room and online, to focus Global Gateway even more on key value chains. It's energy, it's clean tech, digital, of course, critical minerals, transport, food and health. And in all these fields, our goal is to combine our strength, to build up resilient value chains together with local infrastructure, but also, most importantly, local jobs, local skills, and local industries. Let me give you an example. The Lobito Corridor. The Lobito Corridor in Central Africa is an example of what it looks like in practice. This transport artery links Angola's Atlantic coast to the mineral heartlands of Zambia and the Democratic Republic of Congo. It will cut the journey from the center of the continent to the port from 45 days to just 1 week. And by removing 5,000 heavy-duty trucks from congested roads, it will significantly reduce carbon emissions. But the corridor is far more than just infrastructure. It is mobilizing over 1 billion euros not only for railways and roads, but for agricultural value chains in Angola, in DRC, and Zambia, for modern logistic hubs to bring products to market, for vocational training to ensure that local people benefit from new jobs. It is about the critical raw materials that are so vital for our strategic industries, not just for Europe's needs, but with local processing and added value. So the Lobito Corridor is a strategic investment for both Europe and our African partners. And this is not a one-off story. We have with Global Gateway a similar project with you, all of you here today. Let me give you some examples. Investment in Colombia's digital transition. The regional electricity integration with Guatemala. From clean energy projects in South Africa, Togo, and Mauritania, to sustainable transport links in Nigeria. From modernizing strategic ports in Capo Verde, to supporting Rwanda's rise as a regional hub for vaccines and biotech manufacturing. This is the breadth and the depth of our partnership. The aim is to build greater resilience, of course competitiveness, and common strength together. That is the essence of Global Gateway. And as the world changes around us, too many critical projects still struggle to secure financing. We all know that governments cannot bridge this gap alone. So lasting development depends on the engagement of the private sector with their funding and, of course, with their technologies and their know-how. Global Gateway makes grants, concession loans, and guarantees to share the risk and to make projects viable for business. And we've seen that this approach works. With the support from Global Gateway, private sector investments are already strengthening Africa's health and food sovereignty. They are turning harmful algae in Grenada, Barbados, and the wider Caribbean into new industries and value chains and good jobs. And therefore, I'm so pleased that today over 150 top European companies are represented here in this room and online, alongside public authorities and our financial institutions. Because we want to see greater engagement between our partner companies, our countries, and our private sectors. This cooperation does not just deliver public goods. Again, it means sustainable jobs, it means growth, it means prosperity that far outlasts the initial investment. So, we want to make this engagement as straightforward as possible. We have heard from business that you want to be involved earlier in the process, not just in the implementation, but in shaping priorities and identifying strategic projects. We've thought about it, we've worked on your requests, and we came to a good solution. And this is why we're launching today the Global Gateway Investment Hub. The Global Gateway Investment Hub is a single entry platform for companies to propose investments. A place where member states, development banks, export credit agencies, and businesses come together to craft coordinated offers. So together we can deliver solid returns for investors, strategic value for Europe, and lasting benefits for our partners. Excellencies, this forum is not only a moment to showcase how we work together under Global Gateway. It is a moment to listen. It is a moment to reflect on how we can strengthen it further, how we can scale up concrete projects, how we can create greater investment opportunities. This room is full of potential partners. So to the CEOs and investors here today, your perspective is vital. Tell us, what will unlock new projects? What will give you the confidence to take them forward? And to our partner countries, we are in this together. So tell us, where are your priorities? Where are your ambitions meeting ours? Tell us where we can combine efforts to deliver on the shared potential we all believe in. Because Europe is here and Europe is ready to work with you, to deliver a future we want to share. So thank you all for being here today with us, and I look forward to a productive forum. Let's have a good day together. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for those inspiring words, Madam President. We now hear from our leaders who have joined us here today. We are very proud and very privileged to have so many of you. Our first speaker is His Excellency João Manuel Goncalves Lourenço, Chairperson of the African Union and President of the Republic of Angola. Thank you very much, sir.
Sua Excelência Ursula von der Leyen, Presidente da Comissão da União Europeia, Suas Excelências, Chefes de Estado e de Governo, minhas senhoras, meus senhores, dirijo-me a Vossas Excelências na qualidade de Presidente em exercício da União Africana, por ocasião da segunda edição do Fórum Global Gateway, uma plataforma essencial para falarmos de parcerias que respondam aos desafios e às necessidades do desenvolvimento sustentável. Este encontro assinala um marco histórico nas relações entre a União Africana e a União Europeia, por estarmos a celebrar o 25º aniversário da nossa parceria estratégica, no momento em que a comunidade internacional enfrenta desafios e tensões geopolíticas crescentes. Fizemos um percurso comum que dura 25 anos, por isso considero que estamos num momento de maturidade nas nossas relações, impondo-se a necessidade de assumirmos um renovado compromisso de tornar esta parceria na força motriz capaz de moldar um futuro partilhado. Cabe-nos agir conjuntamente no sentido de procurarmos aperfeiçoar os nossos modelos de cooperação, consolidar os mecanismos de solidariedade e aprofundar os laços entre os nossos povos, as nossas economias e as nossas instituições, na base dos valores fundamentais que sustentam a nossa visão partilhada para 2030, assentes no respeito, na equidade, sustentabilidade e unidade. Olho para este fórum como uma renovada oportunidade para abordarmos as questões que promovem a construção de pontes, que nos levem aos melhores caminhos para partilharmos responsabilidades e transformarmos desafios em novas perspectivas neste mundo de interdependência em que conectividade já não se limita apenas a infraestruturas físicas, mas também a um conjunto de fatores de que realço a segurança energética, a segurança alimentar, a transição digital, a integração econômica, a inclusão social e a resiliência climática. Excelências, a parceria entre a União Africana e a União Europeia no quadro do Global Gateway tem um imenso potencial e representa, no nosso entendimento, um instrumento fundamental para transformar oportunidades em resultados concretos, na base de uma cooperação reforçada na confiança mútua e na de uma visão estratégica que nos permita alcançar os objetivos que delineamos em comum. Em África, traçamos a meta da industrialização e estamos fortemente empenhados em alcançar este objetivo, desenvolvendo capacidades que podem impulsionar a transformação local dos recursos, com vista a procurarmos criar empregos dignos para a juventude africana, agregar conteúdo tecnológico aos produtos e, desta forma, mitigar os fluxos migratórios para a Europa, forçados por escassez de emprego e falta de alguma perspectiva dos jovens. Estamos profundamente cientes de que é fundamental acrescentar mais-valias às matérias-primas de África, tornando-as mais competitivas nos mercados internacionais, de que resultariam mais recursos financeiros para investirmos nas nossas economias, que se encontram numa fase de redinamização no quadro da Zona de Comércio Livre Continental e no da construção de infraestruturas para o desenvolvimento de África. É em função desta visão que a União Africana realizará em Luanda, neste mês de outubro, uma cimeira sobre o financiamento para o desenvolvimento das infraestruturas em África, sob o lema Capital, Corredores, Comércio. Investir em infraestruturas para a Zona de Comércio Livre Continental Africana e a prosperidade partilhada. Falo deste tema aqui por considerar estar no local e momento apropriados para mobilizar sensibilidades, interesses e capital financeiro que poderiam ser canalizados para os objetivos que referi por via dos mecanismos europeus de apoio ao desenvolvimento e pelos canais do setor privado e empresarial da Europa aqui representado. Terão certamente benefícios importantes se associarem a nós na concretização deste grande sonho africano que começa a tornar-se realidade com a execução de projetos de edificação de portos, caminhos de ferro, estradas, aeroportos, barragens hidroelétricas, parques de painéis fotovoltaicos e de outras importantes infraestruturas. Durante a conferência, teremos a oportunidade de apresentar aos nossos parceiros internacionais um vasto painel de prioridades de investimento no continente africano, já projetados no Programa para o Desenvolvimento de Infraestruturas em África, vulgo PIDA. Creio tratar-se de uma grande oportunidade para procurarmos alinhar as prioridades africanas com os instrumentos de cooperação já em curso, muito especialmente o Global Gateway, que oferece perspectivas concretas de parceria e de criação conjunta de iniciativas refletidas no Africa Europe Investment Package, cuja implementação levará à ampliação e consolidação de resultados decorrentes da nossa ação comum. Excelências, a cooperação estratégica entre a União Europeia e a União Africana, sob projetos estruturantes, reforçou-se na sequência da terceira reunião ministerial União Africana-União Europeia, realizada em maio de 2025. Nessa ocasião, foram reconhecidos os progressos já alcançados e foi dado realce ao impacto transformador de iniciativas comuns, de que destaco o Mercado Único Africano de Eletricidade, o Plano Diretor dos Sistemas de Energia Continental, a Estratégia Africana de Eficiência Energética, o Mecanismo de Mitigação de Risco Geotérmico e o Programa de Desenvolvimento de Infraestruturas em África, como há bocado me referi, PIDA. Foi lançado um número considerável de projetos estruturantes em África, o que evidencia o grande dinamismo de que se reveste a cooperação entre a União Africana e a União Europeia, que vai para além das infraestruturas em si mesmas, cobrindo o reforço de capacidades, a formação técnica e a modernização regulatória, compondo assim um conjunto de fatores essenciais para garantir benefícios duradouros para as nossas populações. Gostaria de poder enumerar todos esses projetos, mas por razões de tempo concentrar-me-ei apenas no grande projeto do Corredor do Lobito, pelo potencial de desenvolvimento econômico e social que pode gerar, não apenas em Angola, mas também na região da África Austral, pelas facilidades de transportação de bens e pessoas a preços competitivos, permitindo a ligação e encurtando distâncias entre o Atlântico e o Índico através da conexão com o corredor da Tazara e com o resto do mundo. O corredor do Lobito tem ainda uma importância geopolítica e econômica fundamental, por se tratar de uma plataforma logística que vai encurtar as rotas marítimas internacionais, favorecer o comércio internacional e as trocas comerciais entre a Ásia, a África, a Europa e a América, como dinamizar também o comércio intra-africano, fortalecer a zona de comércio livre continental africana e prestar um relevante contributo para integrar a África nas cadeias globais de valor. Merece uma atenção muito especial de entre todas as ações vitais de cooperação entre a União Africana e a União Europeia, o setor da saúde, que ocupa uma posição central nas preocupações da África, que passaram a assumir um lugar da mais alta prioridade nas nossas estratégias de desenvolvimento, desde que percebemos, com a Covid-19, as nossas vulnerabilidades dos nossos sistemas de saúde e a necessidade de os tornar mais resilientes para fazermos face aos grandes desafios com que nos confrontamos sempre neste setor. Aqui sobressai a necessidade urgente da produção local de vacinas e medicamentos, que está projetada nos programas da cooperação entre a África CDC, a União Europeia e o Global Gateway, através da iniciativa da Equipa Europa, que fortalece as capacidades africanas neste domínio e contribui para a segurança sanitária das populações em África. Excelências, temos uma colaboração com resultados em muitos domínios, o que nos encoraja a manter este mesmo espírito e a melhorar e estender a nossa cooperação a outros setores, dentre os quais realço o da educação, por ter como alvo a juventude, faixa etária que representa 60% da população africana abaixo dos 25 anos de idade, o que nos obriga a centrar as nossas atenções na formação técnica dessas pessoas nos nossos próprios países, com o suporte de programas apoiados pela União Europeia. Excelências, já não nos contentamos com a ideia de sermos apenas uma plataforma de produção e exportação de matérias-primas em bruto, porque temos vindo a agir e a trabalhar para nos posicionarmos como parceiros ativos na construção de uma economia global dinâmica, resiliente e com reflexos na prosperidade da população mundial e, assim, levar a que os abundantes recursos naturais e a força de trabalho jovem de que dispomos sirvam de base para que o mundo olhe para estes fatores como oportunidades únicas de cooperação baseada em interesses partilhados. É claro que chegaremos a esses objetivos quando conseguirmos criar um quadro de parcerias que inclua o financiamento adaptado ao risco, a transferência tecnológica condicionada aos programas de formação, o apoio à criação de indústrias locais e outros aspectos não menos importantes, que no seu conjunto promovam fatores que levem à criação de um multilateralismo inclusivo, eficaz e suficientemente representativo para que possamos abordar os aspectos relativos ao financiamento do desenvolvimento de África de um modo mais equitativo e equilibrado. É nossa convicção que o Fórum Global Gateway, ao consolidar-se como um encontro anual, aberto e inclusivo, onde governos, instituições financeiras, sociedade civil e setor privado possam debater estratégias, alinhar investimentos e acelerar a execução de iniciativas transformadoras, torna-se numa plataforma em que fica demonstrado que o multilateralismo, quando é abrangente e eficaz, oferece respostas concretas aos grandes desafios do nosso tempo. Permitam-me que reafirme o compromisso da União Africana e de Angola em trabalhar com todos os parceiros para que o Global Gateway seja um verdadeiro marco transformador nas relações internacionais, baseado em resultados e orientado para a industrialização de África e para a conectividade global, de modo a tornar-se numa força de prosperidade partilhada. Muito obrigado pela vossa atenção.
Thank you very much for your kind words of support. Please welcome to the stage our next speaker, His Excellency Cyril Ramaphosa, President of the Republic of South Africa, holding the G20 presidency.
Your Excellency, President Ursula von der Leyen, fellow heads of state and government from Africa, especially President Lorenzo, the chairperson of the African Union, leaders from Latin America and the Caribbean and Europe, and honorable ministers and distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for inviting South Africa to this Global Gateway Forum. It is indeed a privilege for me to address this forum, which brings together partners to strengthen cooperation and to advance shared priorities and to find solutions to the pressing challenges that the world is facing. President von der Leyen, you said that there are 150 companies represented here present. You didn't have to tell me that there are 150 of them. Just as I walked in, I could smell money. As I saw the president of the World Bank, I could touch money. And as I greeted you and President Lorenzo, I could touch power in your hands, both of you as leaders of the EU and Africa. But as I encountered President Tshisekedi and President Kagame, whom I'm sitting next to, I could feel the energy for making peace. So I'm in a good place. So it's not only a privilege to be here, it's an absolute joy. I have a galaxy of so many people who have so much impact and influence on the affairs of the world and my beloved continent, Africa. This forum is taking place at a time of geopolitical uncertainty and instability that is negatively impacting on security and economic growth in many parts of the world. These circumstances that the world faces now require comprehensive, coordinated, and forward-looking solutions. And these challenges, in fact, call for a renewed commitment to the peaceful resolution of conflict, respect for international law, the strengthening of multilateralism, and the progressive reform of international bodies like the United Nations and the WTO. With my sister, the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations here, it confirms that the UN plays a critical role globally, and that role needs to be affirmed. As a country, we welcome the opportunity to participate in this forum. The strategic partnership between South Africa and the EU has evolved in scope and substance over the years. The South Africa-EU Summit in Cape Town earlier this year reaffirmed our shared values and further deepened the cooperation between South Africa and the EU, but more broadly, also the relationship between Africa and the EU. Together, we have an opportunity to strengthen resilience by advancing investments in digital and green infrastructure, in trade infrastructure, as President Lorenzo was saying about the Lobito Corridor, fostering innovation, securing supply chains, and encouraging diversification that supports sustainable and inclusive growth. We welcome the support this partnership provides to the development of transport networks, a just transition and climate resilience, pandemic preparedness on the health side, and vaccine production and digital connectivity. As we work to strengthen trade and investment ties, we must also address those issues that hold back more robust, more diverse, and more impactful trade and investment between the African and European countries. We need to work together to overcome the tariff and non-tariff barriers that constrain the breadth and the scale of African exports to the European Union. We must use investment and trade as effective tools and instruments to foster industrialization on the African continent. The Global Gateway, therefore, provides an opportunity to support the priorities that countries have themselves identified, as you have suggested, President van der Leyen, and priorities that they are seeking to pursue. South Africa has embarked on a just transition that advances renewable energy while safeguarding energy security and enabling social and economic development. We are using our natural resources or endowments, such as solar, wind, and our critical minerals, to build industries that will grow our economy. As South Africa, we are undertaking far-reaching economic reforms in energy, where we were challenged for quite a number of years, in water, in logistics, repositioning our harbors and our ports and our roads. We're focusing on telecommunications, and these are making our country more competitive and improving the investment environment. As a country, we are undertaking a massive infrastructure investment drive to expand the capacity of our economy and to meet the developmental needs of our people. Now, as a continent, Africa is striving for universal access to energy through diversification, equitable finance, and technology transfer. Now, the support from the EU and its member states will play an important role in this journey. And this is where we want to be partners. it is important that the substantial investments that are being made through the Global Gateway are structured in a manner that empowers African countries, and may I add, countries in the Global South. And these investments should not replace one dependency with another. They must be truly transformational and empowering. They must enable African countries and countries in the Global South to pursue development paths that are suited to their circumstances and the needs of their people. As we all know, South Africa is hosting the G20 Leaders Summit next month under the theme Solidarity, Equality, and Sustainability. And this theme was chosen very carefully, and it was aimed at addressing the challenges that the world is facing now with regard to solidarity, where we should all act together, the strong supporting the weak, the rich giving and lending support to the poor, the healthy supporting the unhealthy. That is the meaning of solidarity. And we also said that there should be equality. The world needs more equality and inclusion rather than leaving others behind. But we also need sustainable development and transformation. With around 100 of the 132 official meetings having been held since we took over the presidency of the G20 from Brazil, South Africa is well on its way in preparations towards hosting what I would call a very successful G20 summit for the first time on African soil. We welcome the support of the European Union and other countries for our G20 priorities to address the many challenges that developing economy countries are facing. Many developing economy countries face unsustainable debt burdens. A key issue for the G20 must be to develop solutions to address the debt burden that holds back the growth and the development of many of those countries, especially in Africa and in the Global South. We need further measures to ensure that there is fair and equitable access to finance and debt sustainability so that these countries can meet the needs of their people and realize their potential. It is, in my view, simply unacceptable that many developing economy countries pay much more for their debt than what more developed economy countries pay. This unfair treatment perpetuates inequality, not only between individuals, but amongst countries as well. And it is for this reason that South Africa has set up a G20 Extraordinary Committee of Independent Experts on Global Wealth Inequality, which is led by a Nobel laureate, Professor Joseph Stiglitz, to table a report at the G20 Leaders Summit on the issue of inequality. We now need to confront inequality and find ways of addressing it, for the world cannot continue with one part of the world being much better off and the other part being unequal. We must build consensus on the reform of international financial institutions, particularly the multilateral development banks, to better tackle global challenges. We have recognized the need to massively increase support for climate action in the Global South and for reconstruction in the aftermath of extreme weather events. Greater support needs to be given to developing economy countries through climate finance, and the commitments that have been made need to be met. We're also calling for stronger action against predatory mining practices and for management of critical minerals. Countries that are endowed with critical minerals require that value addition should happen at source rather than continue with the practice of extracting, exporting rock, soil, and dust to more developed economy countries. We need those resources to be developed at source so that the people of those countries must benefit. And that is the fairer way of development. We are focusing on strengthening the multilateral trading system while recognizing that the WTO remains the only multilateral body capable of managing divergences and coordinating positions in global trade, so that things like tariffs should not be weaponized. They should be properly regulated through the WTO system. We remain committed to working closely with the EU to ensure that our shared ambitions translate into tangible outcomes. I do believe that together we can foster inclusive growth, we can build resilience, and we can create a sustainable and secure future for all our people. Working together with the private sector, with state agencies, development banks or financing institutions, and various other stakeholders, the world will be a much better place. And I do believe we should get on with it. Thank you.
Thank you for setting the bar high for our discussions here at the Global Gateway Forum. I'd like to welcome to the stage now His Excellency Gustavo Francisco Petro Urrego, President pro tempore of the CELAC Presidency and President of the Republic of Colombia.
Bien, yo vengo en nombre de la presidencia de la CELAC, la Comunidad Económica de América Latina y el Caribe, que expresa un poco sin mayor acción el intento de integración de todo un continente, de un continente que tiene sus diferencias, que llega hasta el río Bravo, en la frontera con los Estados Unidos de Norteamérica. Hay dos países limítrofes allí, los Estados Unidos de México y los Estados Unidos de Norteamérica. A todos, desde el Alaska hasta la Patagonia, se nos debe decir americanos, pero solo le dicen a unos, que hoy por hoy, y me parece que deberíamos comenzar esta conversación, en la medida en que, pues, ni más ni menos está atravesada por una serie de transformaciones en proceso del mundo, No sabemos bien cómo vamos a salir de aquí. Indudablemente hay una gran división europea. Estaba haciendo cuentas en la OTAN de qué países podían apoyar o están apoyando el Estado de Palestina y en contra del genocidio. No son los mismos números, qué países no lo hacen. Y encontré una cifra que puede variar también, 15 versus 17. 15 a favor del Estado palestino, 17 en contra. Solo un país haría la diferencia. Y por tanto la inestabilidad que uno ve en esa toma de decisiones, que no lo es así en las Naciones Unidas, nos muestra que independientemente de qué ideas tengamos al respecto hoy, el mundo está en inestabilidad y sobre el filo de la navaja y puede variar sustancialmente en los próximos meses y años. Lo que pude ver de movilizaciones en Europa, en países que no han querido cambiar su posición, que fueron las más grandes de sus pueblos, lo que muestra es como una querencia de pueblos en los Estados Unidos, de pueblos en Europa, fundamentalmente por una institucionalidad donde quepa más la democracia. Eso variará el mundo y entonces en ese cambio tendríamos que prever esta reunión comercial, cómo se ubica. He escuchado a mis compañeros de África, presidente de la Unión Africana, al cual invito al presidente González a construir una reunión CELAC África. América Latina puede ser, quizás en Brasil, para quizás en Cabo Verde de pronto, que es el punto más intermedio entre los dos, porque nunca nos hemos encontrado en el sur, profundizado esas relaciones. Venimos de hacer una reunión CELAC China, que acabo de realizar en Pekín. Estamos por hacer dentro de un mes exactamente, el 9 y 10 de noviembre, la cumbre CELAC Europa, es la segunda en lo que yo estoy de presidente, que se hará en una hermosísima ciudad del Caribe de nombre Santa Marta, que fue la primera ciudad que europeos hicieron hace 500 años en América. Solo que el intento de hacerlo duró un siglo completo de guerra con los indígenas del lugar. Un siglo de guerra indígena. Porque nuestro encuentro, Europa, América Latina y el Caribe, fue violentísimo. Fue también un genocidio. ¿Cómo volver eso en términos del siglo XXI? Que el proceso de reconstrucción real del encuentro de la humanidad sin hacer divisiones. ¿Cómo hacer de estos encuentros que ahora hay que hacer uniones reales de la humanidad? Y vistos desde el comercio, sabiendo que el comercio no es la única manera ni la principal. Antes hay que tener voluntad humana y conocernos entre humanos. Yo creo que si colocamos los problemas fundamentales, y la señora Van der Leyen comenzó por ahí, los problemas fundamentales de la humanidad, encontramos la manera fundamental de las rutas del comercio, y voy a expresarme un poco con el tiempo que tengo aquí. 1, fibra óptica, telecomunicación, digitalización. De allí se arranca la inteligencia artificial, etcétera, todo un tema de discusión en la humanidad. Europa quiere conectarse en fibra óptica, no solo en satélite, que no da la amplitud suficiente por hoy. Quiere conectarse por fibra óptica con América Latina. Voy a escribir el proyecto rápidamente. Brasil y Colombia han hecho un acuerdo a través de la selva amazónica, que como todos sabemos es uno de los pulmones más grandes del mundo. La fibra óptica ya está subfluvial por todos los ríos del Amazonas, es decir, la parte más larga, desde Belém de Pará, donde se hará la COP30. Esa fibra óptica llegó a nuestra frontera. Y si nosotros la extendemos, río Putumayo, río Amazonas, pero solo río Putumayo, llegamos a la parte más angosta de los Andes, por tanto a la parte más cercana del Océano Pacífico. Lo podemos hacer nosotros solos. Pero llegaríamos a un puerto que se llama Tumaco, mucho más pobre, de gente que trajeron esclavizada del África, que nos pondría de cara en todo el Océano Pacífico a China. Y entonces habría un interesante proyecto, no de un solo tiempo, en donde habría que pensar políticamente. Si el mundo quisiera que el corazón de la vitalidad, que es la selva amazónica, a través de sus ríos, sirvieran de unión comunicacional a través de la fibra óptica, de unión del pensamiento, etcétera, el saber y la intelectualidad general del mundo a través de los ríos del corazón vital del planeta, la selva amazónica, para juntar Europa y hacia allí, África y lo que quiera juntarse, en lo que llamaría yo Oriente, desde nuestro punto de vista, y juntarse China, Japón, Australia, quizás Rusia, por el otro lado. No pasaría por América del Norte. Estados Unidos tiene que definirlo, lo hará su pueblo si quieren el aislamiento máximo o unirse a la humanidad. Hoy por hoy la realidad es que se quieren aislar y están produciendo una agresión militar en el Caribe, y he pedido a todos los cancilleres caribeños que nos reunamos, porque lo que suenan ya son los misiles, y una guerra represiva interna en las ciudades norteamericanas contra una etnia, varias etnias que son las latinoamericanas. Mientras Estados Unidos no quiera juntarse con el mundo, podemos juntarnos. Y este proyecto de fibra óptica, que ya está hecho en la parte fluvial, prácticamente todo, podría juntar vía sus puertos, vía los océanos, Europa y Asia, y por tanto Australia y África. Dejo ahí ese proyecto para que se coloque aquí en estas discusiones del foro. Hay uno segundo que tiene que ver con energías limpias. Fibra óptica, energías limpias, esa es la base de la economía del siglo XXI. Economías limpias, doy unos datos, sé que África tiene unos similares, doy los de América Latina. En América del Sur hay un potencial de 1.400 gigas año de energía limpia entre su agua, su sol, sus vientos. Potencial. Estados Unidos tiene una realidad de demanda anual de 1.200 gigas. Matemáticamente, si se quisiera volverlo potencial realidad, eso vale 500.000 millones de dólares, menos en euros. Se podría interconectar eléctricamente la energía eléctrica de América del Sur limpia, hecha realidad con esa inversión, y la demanda de energía fósil que tiene hoy los Estados Unidos. Sería una especie de 30% de superación de la crisis climática mundial. Si ese mismo esfuerzo se examinara África, Europa, pues estaríamos saltando y deteniendo el colapso climático. Pero obviamente, como aquí se ha hecho, no es una nueva colonización, sino que es una nueva juntura democrática de la humanidad y un reconocimiento que Europa puede hacer tanto de América Latina y de África, y una especie de perdón de la historia. Por alguna razón, los acrontes griegos fueron trasladados a Roma, la palabra república con la palabra acronte, pero no fue llevada la palabra democracia. Y los descendientes de los latinos, cuando encontraron América, castellanos y otros portugueses, pues no exportaron democracia, sino a los acrontes, la esclavitud, la servidumbre. Este es el momento de rehacer las cosas, de darnos la mano, de construir una paz, de derrotar los acontres que están ahora en otras partes asesinando niños y de mirar una humanidad que salve del colapso climático a través de fuertes inversiones que son rentables y que aquí he mencionado solo en 2 proyectos, que podrían ser muchos más, que es la fibra óptica intercontinental y las energías limpias suficientes para detener el colapso climático. Gracias, muy amables.
Thank you very much indeed. We now move on to our next speaker. I am delighted to welcome to the stage His Excellency Paul Kagame, President of the Republic of Rwanda. Thank you.
Excellency Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission, Excellency João Manuel Lorenzo, President of the Republic of Angola and Chairperson of the African Union, Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is a pleasure to join you today. This forum has in short time proven its worth by connecting ideas and resources and turning them into real investment. This year's focus on global connectivity is both timely and necessary. The world is facing economic and political shifts that are testing old assumptions about globalization. The answer is not to retreat or turn inwards. Our economies and security are intertwined in ways that cannot be reversed. The challenge is to make this integration equitable so that the opportunities and the benefits of growth flow both ways. But cooperation only works when it is built on the right foundation. We are here to discuss partnerships. However, the term seems to mean different things to people. For some, it's about giving instructions and setting conditions. For others, it means complying. Africa's experience shows that this approach does not deliver the transformation that we need. A good partnership does not create dependency. It creates value. If you want to work with Africa, a true and lasting partnership must be equal, with shared risk and reward. For Africa, the priorities are clear. We need infrastructure, technology, and industries to trade competitively. For Europe, the opportunity is equally evident. Africa offers a growing market, talent, and the natural resources essential for the green and digital transformation. Our interests are aligned, and this is the right time to turn them into sustained mutual growth. This is precisely what the Global Gateway can make possible if we remain consistent and pragmatic. There are already compelling examples on the continent. In Kigali, BioNTech's first end-to-end mRNA vaccine manufacturing facility in Africa is taking shape, supported by the European Union through the Team Europe initiative. This project is a milestone for regional vaccine production. It will reduce Africa's import dependency and strengthen our ability to respond to the future pandemics. This is a good example of a productive partnership with ripple effects that extend far beyond a single country. To sustain the momentum and the gains, financing must mobilize the private sector and strengthen local ecosystems. This is the spirit the Global Gateway should continue to promote. We thank the European Union for championing this platform. The work has begun, and we are making good progress. Rwanda will continue to do its part to ensure that these efforts translate into measurable impact. Here, let me end by reaffirming what President Ramaphosa said about the feelings he had when he was coming to this place. I reaffirm that some of us also felt the same. We felt the positive energy about business, investment, peace, and for power, I leave it for the next day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now, our next speaker is His Excellency Felix Tshisekedi, President of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Thank you very much.
Madame la Présidente de la Commission européenne, chère Ursula, Excellence, Monsieur le Président João Manuel Gonçalves Lourenço, Président de la République d'Angola et Président en exercice de l'Union africaine, Excellences, Messieurs les chefs d'État et de gouvernement, Mesdames et Messieurs les représentants des institutions financières, du secteur privé et de la société civile, distingués invités, Mesdames et Messieurs, c'est un honneur pour moi d'intervenir à cette édition du Global Gateway Forum qui s'impose année après année comme une plateforme décisive de partenariat d'infrastructures, d'énergie, de connectivité et d'innovation entre l'Afrique et l'Europe. Je salue le leadership de l'Union européenne qui, dans un contexte géopolitique et géoéconomique exigeant, fait le choix de lier la relance de la connectivité mondiale à des principes de transparence, de durabilité et de réciprocité. La République démocratique du Congo vient à Bruxelles avec une conviction simple. Nous offrons des solutions. Pays continent au cœur de l'Afrique, riche de ressources stratégiques et d'une jeunesse audacieuse, mon pays est engagé dans une transformation profonde, énergétique, numérique, démographique et écologique, et il souhaite l'ancrer dans un pacte de maturité avec tous ses partenaires, notamment l'Europe, un partenariat d'égal à égal, aligné sur les priorités de nos peuples et ouvert au co-investissement privé. Dans cette dynamique, permettez-moi de vous présenter quelques initiatives phares portées par la République démocratique du Congo et en lien direct avec les piliers du Global Gateway. Il y a en premier lieu le corridor de Lobito. Aux côtés de l'Angola et de la Zambie, la République démocratique du Congo s'est engagée à faire de ce corridor un levier d'intégration régionale, de souveraineté logistique et d'industrialisation. Un investissement initial de plus de 1,6 milliard de dollars américains permettra d'ici 2030 de tripler la capacité d'exportation annuelle de minerais critiques de 3 à 10 millions de tonnes. La modernisation et l'extension de la dorsale ferroviaire, longue de 1300 km, reliant les zones minières de la Copper Belt à l'océan Atlantique, ne vise pas seulement à transporter des minerais, elles doivent ancrer des chaînes de valeur locales avec des zones économiques spéciales, des hubs logistiques, des plateformes de transformation, des centres de formation en cohérence avec la zone de libre-échange continentale africaine, la ZLECAf. Notre objectif est clair, transformer davantage en Afrique, créer des emplois de qualité et fluidifier les échanges continentaux. Dans le prolongement de cette ambition, le mémorandum d'entente Union européenne-République démocratique du Congo consacre un partenariat structurant fondé sur la traçabilité, la lutte contre l'exploitation illégale et la transparence des flux. Il prévoit le renforcement des capacités congolaises, de la recherche géologique à la transformation locale et l'essor de clusters industriels dans le plein respect des normes sociales et environnementales. L'ambition est là aussi explicite, transformer, assembler, créer de la valeur sur place et former une main-d'œuvre qualifiée. Cette dynamique va s'appuyer sur des infrastructures complémentaires, notamment logistiques et énergétiques, à commencer par le corridor de Lobito, mais aussi le futur apport du projet du Grand Tinga. En effet, fort d'un potentiel hydroélectrique unique, le Grand Tinga peut devenir le socle d'une industrialisation décarbonée en Afrique centrale, tout en soutenant l'émergence d'usages d'avenir, hydrogène vert, corridors électriques régionaux, offres compétitives pour l'industrie et les services numériques. Nous proposons d'inscrire le projet Grand Tinga dans le pipeline du Global Gateway avec des mécanismes de financement innovants, des garanties, des contrats d'achat d'électricité de long terme et une gouvernance exemplaire sur les plans environnemental et social. Je le dis avec la plus grande conviction, aucun agenda mondial de transition énergétique n'est crédible sans l'Afrique centrale. Il est donc temps de transformer ce constat en action. Enfin, à l'échelle des territoires, Le couloir vert Kinshasa-Kivu s'inscrit dans la même logique d'impact local et d'interconnexion stratégique. Projet intégré combinant infrastructures routières, connectivité numérique, électrification décentralisée et valorisation des chaînes agricoles, il reliera des milliers de kilomètres d'axes à des plateformes logistiques et à des mini-réseaux pour désenclaver, numériser et bancariser des centaines de localités aujourd'hui isolées. Situé au cœur de l'un des plus grands ensembles forestiers tropicaux, avec une aire protégée la plus vaste au monde, s'étalant sur une superficie de 540 000 km², le couloir vert Kinshasa-Kivu fait de la protection des forêts parmi les plus intactes de la planète et de la préservation de la biodiversité du bassin du Congo les fondements même du projet, afin que conservation de la nature et développement se renforcent mutuellement au bénéfice des communautés locales et du climat mondial. Déjà soutenu par l'Union européenne à travers l'initiative Global Gateway, le couloir vert constitue un projet de cohésion territoriale majeur. Il vise à recoudre le tissu économique et social, ouvrir de nouveaux marchés aux producteurs, revitaliser l'économie locale et renforcer la résilience des communautés. Ce projet emblématique améliorera directement la vie de plus de 31 millions de personnes, protégera près de 108 000 km² de forêts vierges et créera plus de 500 000 emplois, dont au moins 20 000 spécifiquement destinés aux jeunes hommes et femmes démobilisés des groupes armés, contribuant ainsi à une paix durable dans nos provinces orientales longtemps éprouvées par l'instabilité. Une initiative historique qui illustre ce que l'Afrique et l'Europe réalisent lorsqu'elles s'écoutent, co-construisent et investissent dans les projets à fort impact humain et à haute valeur ajoutée locale. Dans un autre registre, l'essor mondial des centres de données d'intelligence artificielle impose une équation nouvelle. Une énergie abondante et verte pour soutenir une économie numérique sobre en carbone. La République démocratique du Congo entend se positionner comme un partenaire stratégique pour relever ce double défi énergétique et numérique. C'est dans cet esprit que nous envisageons, à proximité du complexe de Grand Inga, la création d'une zone économique spéciale dédiée à l'industrie de la donnée, réunissant 3 atouts essentiels: une énergie propre, une connectivité transcontinentale par fibre optique et un cadre incitatif favorable à l'implantation de centres de données à portée mondiale. À travers ces projets structurants, notre ambition est limpide: faire de l'Afrique centrale un levier stratégique de la révolution numérique mondiale, non plus seulement en tant que pourvoyeur de ressources, mais comme une terre de transformation, d'innovation et de souveraineté technologique partagée. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, aucun développement durable ne peut s'enraciner sans stabilité. Dans l'Est de la République démocratique du Congo, notre peuple subit une agression flagrante, menée par des groupes rebelles lourdement soutenus par un État voisin, en violation du droit international, de notre souveraineté et de notre intégrité territoriale. Et là, permettez-moi de m'arrêter sur cette question, parce que mon discours avait prévu un plaidoyer et un appel à des sanctions contre ce pays. Vous avez deviné de qui il s'agit. Mais étant donné que j'ai vu le président du Rwanda, parce que c'est de lui qu'il s'agit, je prends à témoin l'assistance ici présente et le monde entier qui nous suit à travers les réseaux pour lancer un appel à la paix, lui tendre la main et demander à ce qu'on arrête cette escalade. Monsieur le Président, vous le savez très bien, depuis que j'ai été élu en 2019, lors de mon premier mandat, je suis allé voir tous mes 9 voisins, plus particulièrement le Rwanda et l'Ouganda, pays avec lesquels nous avions des tensions, pour vous proposer de travailler ensemble, de rapprocher nos peuples, nos communautés, pour le développement et le bien-être de celles-ci. À aucun moment, je n'ai affiché une attitude belliqueuse, quelle qu'elle soit, à l'égard du Rwanda ou de l'Ouganda ou d'un autre de nos 9 voisins. Aujourd'hui, nous vivons cette situation et nous sommes les deux seuls capables d'arrêter cette escalade. Je le dis en prenant à témoin le président João Lourenço, notre président actuellement de l'Union africaine, dont je rends d'ailleurs un hommage particulier pour son implication dans cette crise, et qui, comme vous le savez, était à quelques encablures de la régler définitivement. Mais malheureusement, sans aucune raison, en tout cas je n'en ai jamais entendu jusqu'à ce jour, vous avez boycotté cette cérémonie alors que nous étions à 98% déjà de recouvrer une paix durable. Mais il n'est pas trop tard pour bien faire. Et c'est pour ça que je prends à témoin ce forum et à travers lui le monde entier pour vous tendre la main, Monsieur le Président, à ce que nous fassions la paix des braves. Et cela demande que vous donniez l'ordre aux troupes du M23 qui sont soutenues par votre pays d'arrêter cette escalade qui a fait suffisamment de morts comme ça. Nous les comptons par millions depuis des années. L'histoire nous jugera. Il est temps d'arrêter et de nous tourner vers la paix et le développement. Je remercie le président Cyril Ramaphosa qui est venu à nos côtés, qui n'a pas hésité à envoyer ses troupes, dont d'ailleurs certains éléments sont tombés sur le champ d'honneur dans notre pays, au front, ce qui nous oblige à rester définitivement reconnaissants envers la République d'Afrique du Sud et des autres républiques sœurs de Tanzanie et de Malawi qui avaient aussi contribué à des troupes. Mais je crois que l'Afrique aujourd'hui a besoin de passer à autre chose, Monsieur le Président Paul Kagame, et nous en sommes capables. Prenons simplement le courage de nous regarder en face, de dire ce qui ne va pas et de prendre les décisions les bonnes pour nos populations. Et donc, le plaidoyer que j'avais prévu pour appeler à des sanctions, je préfère le suspendre pour le moment, en attendant évidemment d'avoir la réponse du président Kagame, parce que j'ai vu ici dans la salle également l'émissaire du président Donald Trump, dont je salue l'implication dans la crise qui frappe mon pays, et à travers lui également nos amis et frères du Qatar avec son émir qui s'était aussi impliqué. Merci également à l'Union africaine, aujourd'hui représentée par le président Faure Gnassingbé, désigné par le président de l'Union, en exercice de l'Union africaine, le président Lourenço, qui aussi est à nos côtés pour ça. Je crois que cet appel est la preuve que la République démocratique du Congo n'est pas belliqueuse. La République démocratique du Congo veut la paix, la véritable paix qui va entraîner la stabilité et permettre le développement de cette région qui, pour moi, est l'une des plus belles régions du monde, c'est-à-dire cette région des Grands Lacs. J'espère que cet appel sera entendu par le président Kagame et je lui dis ma disponibilité à discuter de cette situation. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, excusez-moi cette digression, je reviens dans mon discours. La République démocratique du Congo réaffirme son engagement d'opérationnaliser la feuille de route émanant de l'accord de partenariat signé en 2023 et confirmer le vœu de le voir fondé sur les réalités d'aujourd'hui, les ambitions de demain et la mémoire des erreurs d'hier. Nous sommes prêts, mais ce futur, nous voulons le construire ensemble, dès à présent, dans la transparence, dans l'équité et dans le respect mutuel. L'Afrique vous attend, la République démocratique du Congo vous accueille. Je vous remercie.
Our next speaker is His Excellency Mohamed Ould Azourani, President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania. We welcome you.
Excellence, Madame la Présidente de la Commission européenne, Excellence, Monsieur le Président en exercice de l'Union africaine, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs les chefs d'État et de gouvernement, Mesdames et Messieurs, je tiens tout d'abord à exprimer ma profonde gratitude à Son Excellence, la Présidente de la Commission européenne, Madame Ursula von der Leyen, à travers elle à l'Union européenne dans son ensemble, pour l'aimable invitation qui m'offre aujourd'hui le plaisir de prendre part avec vous à la présente édition du Global Gateway Forum, consacré à la connectivité mondiale en période de tension géopolitique et géoéconomique et à l'identification dans ce contexte de priorités d'investissement. Je voudrais, en outre, exprimer ma très haute appréciation de la qualité des relations de coopération entre mon pays et l'Union européenne. Profonde, diversifiées et constructives, ces relations sont soutenues par un ensemble de valeurs communes et par l'excellence de nos relations bilatérales avec chacun des pays de l'Union. Elles couvrent aujourd'hui de nombreux domaines prioritaires comme le développement humain, la transition vers une économie verte et bleue, la gouvernance, la stabilité et la sécurité, dans lesquels l'Union européenne nous apporte un soutien constant et précieux. Qu'elle en soit ici vivement remerciée. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, l'affaiblissement croissant du multilatéralisme, la montée du protectionnisme, les conflits armés en Ukraine et au Proche-Orient, ainsi que la multiplication des foyers de tension, d'instabilité et de conflits à travers le monde, en particulier en Afrique, plonge aujourd'hui notre planète dans une atmosphère d'incertitude tant économique que géopolitique. Chaque jour, les mécanismes de la gouvernance mondiale, politique, économique et financière révèlent davantage leurs limites. Les alliances se reconfigurent et l'ordre international peine à se réajuster, voire à se redéfinir au gré des crises sécuritaires, économiques et géopolitiques. Cette situation aggrave les défis mondiaux liés à la sécurité et à la stabilité, au changement climatique, à la pauvreté et au déficit de gouvernance et d'inclusivité de développement. Face à ce contexte préoccupant, l'Union européenne a choisi de réaffirmer son attachement au droit international, mais aussi et surtout à son alignement sur les objectifs du développement durable et sur le renforcement de la coopération multilatérale. L'initiative Global Gateway illustre admirablement cet engagement en faveur de la coopération internationale et du développement durable. Cette initiative est centrée sur le renforcement de la connectivité mondiale à travers le développement de liaisons intelligentes, propres et sûres dans les domaines du numérique, de l'énergie, des transports, de la santé, de l'éducation et de la recherche. Ces objectifs convergent parfaitement avec les priorités de la Mauritanie. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, résolument engagée à bâtir un développement durable et inclusif, la Mauritanie a fait de la promotion du capital humain et de la lutte contre la pauvreté, contre la marginalisation et la précarité les piliers de sa stratégie de développement national. Elle a ainsi accordé une attention particulière à des moyens de plus en plus importants aux services publics de base, santé, éducation, eau, électricité, services numériques, ainsi qu'à l'amélioration des conditions de vie des plus démunis, tout en œuvrant à consolider l'ancrage de l'État de droit, des libertés individuelles et collectives et de la bonne gouvernance. Nous travaillons à accélérer la transition vers une économie verte et bleue, à diversifier notre économie, à développer le numérique, les infrastructures et le secteur productif, et à améliorer le climat des affaires ainsi que le cadre juridique et fiscal pour encourager les investissements nationaux et étrangers dans un environnement sûr et fiable. Je tiens ici à saluer l'accompagnement constant de l'Union européenne dans tous ces domaines, notamment dans le domaine du numérique, où la construction d'un centre de données à Nouakchott et l'installation d'un deuxième câble sous-marin pour un Internet à haut débit qui permettra de sécuriser et d'accroître la capacité de transmission des données, de transmission des données. Dans le domaine des infrastructures, la construction d'une ligne d'interconnexion électrique à haute tension reliant Nouakchott, la capitale, à Néma, sur plus d'1 millier de kilomètres, dont le tronçon entre Nouakchott et Kifa est financé par l'Union européenne, la Banque européenne d'investissement et l'AFD, sera signé en marge du présent forum, ainsi que la construction du pont de Rosso qui relie la Mauritanie au Sénégal. Dans le domaine des énergies renouvelables, l'initiative Écosystème de l'hydrogène vert de l'équipe Europe, soutenue par l'Union européenne, la Banque européenne d'investissement, l'Allemagne, l'Espagne et la France. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, le besoin est aujourd'hui plus que jamais pressant de construire des partenariats solides, ancrés dans des valeurs partagées pour faire face aux multiples défis et incertitudes inhérentes aux crises économiques et géopolitiques actuelles. Aussi, tout en renouvelant mes remerciements à l'Union européenne pour son appui précieux, je réaffirme ma ferme volonté d'œuvrer à consolider et à diversifier davantage les relations de coopération qui unissent à mon pays. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much indeed. Now, please welcome to the stage our next speaker, His Excellency Cesar Bernardo Arevalo de Leon, President of the Republic of Guatemala. Thank you very much.
Excelentísima señora Presidenta de la Comisión Europea, Ursula von der Leyen, excelentísimos jefes de Estado y de Gobierno participantes, representantes del sector privado, sociedad civil y organismos multilaterales, muy buenos días. En nombre del pueblo de Guatemala, extiendo un fraternal saludo a todos los presentes y agradezco profundamente a la presidenta de la Comisión Europea la invitación para acompañarles hoy. La presencia de nuestro país en esta segunda edición del Foro Global Gateway es una valiosa oportunidad para comprometernos con el avance del multilateralismo y el fortalecimiento del orden internacional basado en reglas, para renovar los lazos de cooperación que nos vinculan con nuestros socios internacionales y para consolidar alianzas que generan impactos tangibles en nuestras comunidades. Guatemala tiene una relación muy especial con la Unión Europea que está entre nuestros 3 principales socios comerciales. Desde la entrada en vigor del Acuerdo de Asociación entre Centroamérica y la Unión Europea en el año 2013, nuestras exportaciones anuales a los países de la Unión Europea se han duplicado con un crecimiento anual compuesto de 5.5%. Guatemala y Europa están unidas por valores comunes. En los últimos años, el pueblo y gobierno de Guatemala hemos luchado para proteger, preservar y profundizar nuestra democracia, para garantizar el respeto de los derechos humanos y para renovar nuestra convicción de vivir en un Estado de Derecho, esfuerzo en el que hemos estado acompañados por la Unión Europea. A pesar de las dificultades, hemos trabajado para impulsar condiciones que garanticen la transparencia, la estabilidad y la confianza en los procesos de inversión. Los resultados están a la vista y hoy podemos decir que Guatemala es un socio confiable para la Unión Europea. Nuestra economía es la más grande de la región, ya que 4 de cada 10 productos centroamericanos se fabrican en Guatemala. Y eso hace que seamos un destino importante para la atracción de nuevos capitales y para el desarrollo de la creatividad y la innovación. Desde que nuestro gobierno asumió, hemos desarrollado con mucho éxito diversos procesos para limpiar el aparato público y cerrar espacios a la corrupción. Estos esfuerzos han creado un entorno más sano y seguro para la inversión y están rindiendo frutos. Nuestro Producto Interno Bruto real creció 3.7% en 2024 y este año se proyecta un crecimiento del 4%, de los mayores en América Latina. Nuestra deuda pública se mantiene en 27% del PIB, la más baja del continente, y nuestra deuda pública neta está en 16%. Durante el primer trimestre de este año, los flujos de inversión extranjera directa alcanzaron 476 millones de dólares y la inversión doméstica creció en 12.8%. El turismo está en auge con un crecimiento del 16% anual. Por eso, todas las calificadoras de riesgo crediticio han incrementado la calificación de Guatemala con perspectiva estable y positiva. Standard & Poor's nos otorgó la calificación más alta de nuestra historia, BB+, en mayo pasado. Y Moody's y Fitch también nos han asignado perspectivas positivas en la categoría más cercana al grado de inversión. La posibilidad de recibir inversiones que propicien la transformación de sectores clave como la energía, la conectividad digital, el transporte, la salud y la educación es una oportunidad histórica que Guatemala está decidida a aprovechar con visión y responsabilidad. Mi gobierno está plenamente comprometido a actuar de manera eficiente en ese contexto y una prueba de ello es que hemos sido ya sede de varios eventos bajo el paraguas del Global Gateway. El Foro de Inversiones Motagua, Invirtiendo en Economía Circular, la iniciativa Global Gateway Transición Digital e Inclusiva y la Semana de la Alianza Digital Unión Europea, América Latina y el Caribe 2025. El apoyo de la estrategia Global Gateway a las inversiones en la región está teniendo sus primeros frutos en distintos proyectos en Guatemala a través de la promoción, innovación y competitividad de pequeñas empresas, así como en el acceso de estas a servicios digitales. En este sentido, quiero destacar 3 acciones concretas que vemos como ejemplo derivado de la cooperación y que son reflejo del espíritu transformador del Foro Global Gateway en mi país. Primero, la recuperación de la cuenca del río Motagua. Segundo, el proyecto Ver Crecer para cadenas agrícolas sostenibles. El tercero, el programa Petén Más Sostenible para la conservación de la gran selva maya. Pero la cooperación que nos une va más allá de la economía y la cooperación. En 2023, el respaldo de la Unión Europea, junto con otros socios internacionales, fue vital para que el pueblo de Guatemala defendiese con éxito su voluntad soberana expresada en elecciones libres ante el intento de vulnerarlas por élites político-criminales que continúan intentando socavar la democracia desde algunos espacios del aparato de justicia. Agradecemos el respaldo que la Unión Europea y sus Estados miembros nos han brindado en este proceso. Entendemos que la defensa de la democracia es una causa común que une a nuestros pueblos y que la colaboración en esta tarea es parte de un esfuerzo global para promover principios fundamentales de libertad, justicia, equidad y paz. En el año 2026, Guatemala renovará las autoridades de sus principales órganos de justicia, incluyendo el órgano electoral y el cargo de fiscal general. La observación internacional será indispensable para asegurar que esta renovación se desarrolle de forma legítima y transparente. Y por eso agradecemos la decisión de acompañar estos procesos de elección mediante una nueva misión de observación de la Unión Europea que contará con todo nuestro apoyo. Concluyo expresando el sincero compromiso de Guatemala con el multilateralismo como vía para fortalecer la gobernanza global y promover sociedades más equitativas, cohesionadas y sostenibles, para reducir la alarmante desigualdad que bloquea nuestras posibilidades de buscar y encontrar el bienestar de nuestros pueblos. En el marco de la próxima cuarta cumbre CELAC-Unión Europea, Guatemala reconoce el valor de la asociación birregional como dinámica indispensable para tender puentes que acerquen nuestras prioridades nacionales con miras a fortalecer la cooperación frente a retos comunes como el crimen organizado, la migración irregular, el cambio climático y la implementación de una agenda de desarrollo que ponga en el centro a las personas. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much indeed, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your attention. Please welcome to the stage our next speaker, His Excellency Taye Atske-Selassie, President of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia.
Madam President Ursula von der Leyen, Excellency John Emmanuel Lorenzo, Chairperson of the African Union, Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, members of the business community, ladies and gentlemen, may I first of all express my heartfelt gratitude for the invitation extended to my country to partake at the second Global Gateway Forum. Initiatives like the Global Gateway would be timely in forging a strategic vision to build a more robust partnership as a response to our shared and contemporary challenges. What makes it more pertinent is that it has been convened at a time of significant global turbulence, heightened geopolitical tension, rising protectionism, and widespread fragility. Initiatives of such types are best positioned to forge stronger collaboration and partnership. The forum is a milestone in Ethiopia's 50 years relationship with the European Union. Our cooperation was able to gather a new impetus since the signing of the 2016 Joint Declaration for a Strategic Engagement. We are moving from traditional cooperation to a partnership focused on strategic and result-oriented goals. Key areas of the Global Gateway, such as renewable energy, digital and sustainable infrastructure, are directly aligned with our own national development strategy. Excellencies, our reform agenda is not merely a plan, it is a reality in motion. We are implementing multi-sector reforms to build a resilient, market-driven economy, creating a robust environment for both domestic and international partners. Ethiopia's readiness for such a grand initiative is best exemplified by our ambitious strides in key sectors. First, we made renewable energy a bedrock of our prosperity. Last month, we fully inaugurated the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, a landmark project funded by our own people, generating over 5,000 megawatts. It is a powerful engine for clean, sustainable development for Ethiopia and the entire East Africa region, and beyond for that matter. It provides a decent life for millions of women and girls who often make a back-breaking search for firewood. This national effort is complemented by EU-supported projects like the Renewable Integrated Sustainable Energy and Digitalization Agreement signed by the EU. France and Ethiopia will rehabilitate and modernize our old national grids, saving significant energy and reducing power outages by half. Second, to attract such partnership, we have built a robust investment ecosystem. We forged a progressive regulatory framework, fostering investor-friendly environment that protects investment. It is self-evident that a country's role in the global value chain is defined by each country's technological competitiveness and connectivity, and to this end, we are positioning ourselves at these forefronts. The recent National Public Key Infrastructure launched a digital ID system, which is fast driving financial inclusion and modernizing our economy. $213 billion in digital transactions were recorded in the last fiscal year, which is a significant surge driven by Ethiopia's digital payment strategy. We also ensure seamless connectivity through Ethiopian Airlines, linking us to more than 130 global destinations and offering partners a competitive edge. Third, we recognize that the cornerstone of Global Gateway is the development of strategic corridors. These corridors are essential for integrating regions like the Horn of Africa into the global trade. However, the utility and efficacy of these routes depend on the stability of their gateways to the world. The security of the Red Sea corridor is not just a national interest for Ethiopia, it is a prerequisite for regional economic security and vital artery to global trade. A collaborative security that epitomizes all key regional stakeholders and major international partners like the EU is essential to safeguard our shared interests. Excellencies, the Global Gateway had the potential to be a model for a new era of partnership for sustainable development. This requires a foundational commitment to African agency which recognizes that the continent is an active partner in a global affairs building better future for all. The African Continental Free Trade Area is a powerful vehicle for collective development, creating a stable, rule-based market that moves our relationship beyond aid and towards dynamic economic partnership. Furthermore, the Addis Ababa Declaration from the Second Africa Climate Summit positions Africa leadership in critical minerals and integrated energy markets. We therefore invite the European Union Commission and business to join us in co-shaping a more balanced and fair critical raw material value chain. Excellencies, to further translate our vision into tangible outcomes, I would like to emphasize on the following 3 areas. First, to establish a joint Africa Technology Innovation Platform and mechanism. This platform would move beyond funding to focus on jointly developing technology and establishing regional center of excellence for green energy and digital service to foster and fast-track knowledge transfer. Second, to launch a value chain integration initiative. As we move beyond the old model of raw material extraction, as mentioned earlier by many leaders, we shall prioritize joint venture in processing and manufacturing within Africa, building resilient supply chains for Europe while creating local industry capacity. We're already piloting this model through partnership between a European investment firm and Ethiopian investment holding. Other countries may scale up this practice as well. The third is about boosting future-ready skill and talent initiative. This will assist us in linking global gateway investment to human capital. For every major infrastructure project, we may co-create dedicated university partnership and vocal training centers. This ensures our young workforce can operate, maintain, and innovate from these projects for years to come, transforming them into engines of sustainable local prosperity. Finally, Excellencies, Ethiopia is committed to working with the European Union to realize the objectives of the Global Gateway. With a clear vision and determined action, we can launch a new chapter in our relationship. I wish you all a very fruitful deliberation. I thank you so much.
Thank you very much indeed. Our next speaker is His Excellency Luc Frieden, Prime Minister of the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg. Thank you.
Madam President of the European Commission, dear Ursula, Presidents of the African Union and CELAC, dear fellow presidents and prime ministers, representatives of the business community and the civil society, what a great and unique gathering. Because it is quite rare that political leaders and the business community and civil society meet, and it's even more rare that we bring together different parts of the world. And that is why I believe that this initiative, the Global Gateway, is so important, especially in these times of profound changes. They were mentioned in the opening remarks by Ursula von der Leyen. They were mentioned by other colleagues here. International law is being challenged. We see profound technological changes, AI and others. We see climate change moving on. And so in these times, I think that partnerships and cooperation are crucial. And that is exactly what we, the member states of the European Union, what the EU is looking for, to strengthen partnerships with other parts of the world on equal terms and to our mutual benefit. That is the purpose of the Global Gateway Strategy. And that is why the member states of the European Union support that initiative. And that is why I decided, as the Prime Minister of a founding member of the European Union, to come here today to Brussels, to express support for this initiative and to express support to the European Commission for its work in this important field. You know, when we talk about infrastructure, we think about roads, bridges, schools, phones, computers, satellites. But such investments are, in my view, much more than that. It's essentially about trust. Trust in one another and trust in the future. Trust turns an investment into a physical reality, a contract into a partnership, and a project into a future. Without it, no amount of money, of technology will have an impact. But with it, even the smallest project can transform lives. And you know, there's a saying, trust arrives on foot and leaves on a horseback. It takes years to build trust and moments to lose it. And that happens, unfortunately, too often in today's world. But that is why we are here, and to nurture that trust and strengthen it. And I hope to strengthen it project by project and in cross-border cooperation. My country, Luxembourg, has thrived on trust and stability. Throughout our history, we have lived at the crossroads of bigger powers. We learned how to navigate between those powers, how to build trust with each of them, and even sometimes to be a bridge between them. A bridge between North and South, East and West, between large economies and small communities. And that is also why we believe so strongly in a rules-based international order. That's why we fight for international law. And that's why we are such a convinced member of the European Union, which is a unique project of peace, of democracy, of prosperity, yes, of international law. Ever since, Luxembourg has been an enabling platform that brings people and capital and ideas together to develop concrete cross-border solutions to create common prosperity in connectivity, space, health, finance. Our companies help deliver space-based connectivity and telecommunication solutions to link schools, farmers, and hospitals from the Sahel to the Great Lake region, from the Caribbean islands to the Pacific coast. Luxembourg companies are at the forefront of medical innovation, enabling life-saving solutions, cold chain transport of vaccines, and reliable medical refrigeration trusted by hospitals and humanitarian actors worldwide. And with the world's first and largest stock exchange fully dedicated to sustainable finance, we are mobilizing global capital for solar parks in Africa, for clean energy projects in Latin America, for communities on the front lines of climate change. These are just a few examples. They are not promises. They are the evidence that cooperation and trust make a real-life difference. And that is also the spirit of the Global Gateway. To build bridges that connect, empower, and endure. Between countries, but also very important, within the public and the private sectors. The private sector, our companies, SMEs, yes, very important, and entrepreneurs are agile, innovative, and close to the ground. More and more of them are interested in supporting Global Gateway projects. This interest demonstrates their belief in this type of partnership. They have trust, and it's up to us to give them the tools to get involved by reducing risk, increasing transparency, and creating more opportunities with local businesses. Luxembourg strongly supports such an inclusive approach because together, governments, multilateral development banks, and the private sector, we can turn the global gateway strategy into a reality. My country and the European Union as a whole want to be a partner of choice, a partner who shares technology, a partner who mobilizes private capital, a partner who respects sovereignty, and who stays for the long run. Together, let us put this global gateway strategy to build the most valuable infrastructure of all, a network of trust, of peace and stability in today's unstable world, linking continents, more important, linking people, and linking the hopes of future generations across the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please welcome to the stage our next speaker, His Excellency José Ulisses Correa e Silva, Prime Minister of the Republic of Cabo Verde.
Excelência Presidente da Comissão Europeia, Ursula von der Leyen, Excelências Chefes de Estado e do Governo, todo o protocolo observado, é com grande satisfação que, em nome do Governo de Cabo Verde, participo neste Fórum Global Gateway. Em 2023, a quando da realização do primeiro Fórum, a nossa expectativa era grande. A nossa presença aqui, nesta segunda edição, é o reconhecimento da importância da iniciativa Global Gateway para as nossas relações políticas, económicas e de parceria para o desenvolvimento na base de confiança mútua. Excelências, numa conjuntura geopolítica turbulenta, é sim hora de uma nova conversa estratégica. Temas como democracia, paz, segurança, multilateralismo, desenvolvimento sustentável, desigualdades e ação climática continuam relevantes, são cada vez mais relevantes, pertinentes e necessários. Tão importante como os financiamentos, hoje ganha especial atenção valores partilhados que sustentam as nossas democracias, a globalização da economia, o direito internacional e a Carta das Nações Unidas. A União Europeia, posicionando-se de forma robusta em defesa de valores partilhados, da paz, do multilateralismo, do respeito pela dignidade humana e da ação climática, tem nos países africanos parceiros privilegiados em prol de causas que nos são comuns. A Agenda 2030 para o Desenvolvimento Sustentável tem perdido fôlego face à emergência de várias situações de crises e situações geopolíticas críticas. É preciso revitalizar a Agenda 2030 e ter em conta as especificidades dos CITES e as suas especiais circunstâncias, como resulta da declaração recentemente aprovada. Os CITES são 39 países, são 39 votos nas Nações Unidas. Somos pequenos em território terrestre, mas grandes em território marítimo. Representamos recursos marinhos, biodiversidade e contribuição para a conectividade e a segurança marítima cooperativa. Esta dimensão é importante para uma aliança geoestratégica mutuamente vantajosa entre a União Europeia e os CITES. Cabo Verde quer valorizar o seu posicionamento no corredor do Atlântico Médio entre o continente africano, a Europa, os Estados Unidos da América e o Brasil. Valorizar do ponto de vista económico e de segurança marítima cooperativa. De forma consequente, com este desígnio, afetamos os recursos da Global Gateway em projetos nas áreas da economia azul, da transição energética e da economia digital, que são áreas estratégicas para o aumento da resiliência, para a diversificação da nossa economia e para a integração de Cabo Verde na logística e no comércio regional africano. No quadro da nossa parceria especial com a União Europeia, temos desenvolvido iniciativa de presenças marítimas coordenadas e a participação no mecanismo europeu de apoio à paz, com foco na segurança marítima. Sediamos o Centro Multidimensional de Coordenação Marítima da Zona G, que integra Guiné-Bissau, Senegal, Gâmbia e Mali, com um papel importante na vigilância marítima. Cabo Verde faz parte das OPACas, Zona de Paz e de Cooperação no Atlântico Sul. Termino na expectativa de que podemos e devemos reforçar a nossa aliança estratégica através da confiança política, da parceria para o desenvolvimento das relações económicas e da participação do setor privado. Muito obrigado. Together we are stronger.
Thank you. Our next speaker is His Excellency Nikol Pashinyan, Prime Minister of the Republic of Armenia.
Thank you very much, Madam President, Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to thank President von der Leyen for this global gateway vision. It is very symbolic that during the first Global Gateway Forum, Armenia introduced our newborn initiative, Crossroads of Peace, with the vision to become an important hub for East-West and North-South connectivity. Being a landlocked country, we perfectly understand the benefits of an inclusive and equitable connectivity in all its forms, as the lack of connectivity has long been a major obstacle to Armenia's development, economic growth, and regional integration. I am happy to report that today, with peace established between Armenia and Azerbaijan and positive dynamics in Armenia-Turkey normalization, our very idea of Crossroads of Peace is being realized, having full potential to change the whole dynamics not only in the South Caucasus, but also far beyond. During the Washington Peace Summit of August 8, with the support of President Trump, Armenia and Azerbaijan, among the others, reached an agreement on opening of the regional infrastructures based on the principles of territorial integrity, sovereignty, inviolability of borders, jurisdiction, and reciprocity. In addition, Armenia and the US, together with mutually determined third parties, will implement the Trump Route for International Peace and Prosperity project, which will have a significant impact on enhancing connectivity in the region and beyond, fully in line with the vision of the Crossroads of Peace initiative. Dear colleagues, for the first time in the modern history, our region is ready both politically and logistically to unlock its untapped potential and to be integrated into the wider unimpeded connectivity between Europe, South Caucasus, and Central Asia. The Trump Route for International Peace and Prosperity, also known as TRIP Route, is a promising investment project that entails a plethora of opportunities for the cooperation from railroads to energy. The EU's increased engagement in the South Caucasus and Central Asia is therefore extremely timely, and Armenia stands ready to bridge these regions, fostering not only infrastructural ties, but also digital, energy, and regulatory interoperability and institutional alignment with the European Union. The relations between Armenia and the European Union have never been closer. This growing partnership creates unique opportunities for anchoring Armenia more deeply and strategically into Europe's evolving connectivity vision, such as the Global Gateway, the Black Sea Strategy, the Middle Corridor, Trans-European Transport Network, and more. Ladies and gentlemen, it was an honor to address you today, and I sincerely hope that my words resonated with you and inspired to take bold decisions for peace, stability, resilience, and prosperity. I wish all of us a productive day ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm sure we all echo your sentiments and hope for a productive day and a productive 2 days here at the Global Gateway Forum 2025. Our next speaker is His Excellency Dickon Mitchell, Prime Minister of Grenada.
Our host and our convener, Her Excellency, the President of the European Commission, the President of Colombia, and Chair of CELAC, the President of Angola and Chair of the African Union, the President of the Republic of South Africa, and Chair of the G20, fellow distinguished heads of state, heads of government, members of the business community, civil society, multilateral development banks. I recognize, sitting next to me, the Deputy Secretary General of the UN. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here with you in Brussels. I speak unscripted because coming from the Caribbean, and in particular the island of Grenada, the small island states of the Caribbean, perhaps more than any region of the world, is a region that has been forged by migration, by connectivity, and by the reality that our very existence depends on a stable, multilateral, rules-based global order. And so I want to thank the European Union for its partnership and support of Grenada and the Caribbean at a time when it is highly tempting to ignore small island developing states and their particular challenges. And the challenges take all forms and shape. The climate challenge and its ability to wipe out decades of progress and development in a matter of mere minutes. And in Grenada's case, just last year, on the 1st of July, in 45 minutes, on the 1st of July, a Category 4 hurricane destroyed 90% of the housing on one of our islands, completely destroyed the power grid and the telecommunication system, and left the citizens of Carriacou and Petite Martinique in untold shock that centuries, decades of toiling could be wiped out in 45 minutes. but it is the partnership of the world that allowed us to rebound. It is the support from multilateral, regional partners like the EU, like CARICOM, like China, like the Gulf states, that have allowed us 12 months later on to have rebuilt our schools, to have normalized our citizens' way of life, and to be able to be pouring on, and to be able to have me here today confident that we can share our knowledge, our grit, our resilience with our partners, so that that partnership allows us to forge a better future for humanity. And so I want us to remember, as we talk about investment and infrastructure and trade and development, the why. Who are we doing this for? So let us remember that in Africa, that 70% of the population has a mean age of 20. So it's ensuring that their future is not dictated by the temptation to pull us back to 80 years ago, to protectionism, to war, to instability, to tribalism, but to give them the opportunity to have a better life, to have the education, the tools, the skills, the peace, the stability to imagine and to create a world for themselves. And so I urge us to remember that the investment should not only be in infrastructure, but in human capacity, in education, in skills training, in the right values, so that we remember that there is no better human being because you live in the North, and a lesser human being because you live in the South. Or no better human being because you choose a particular political system, and a lesser human being because you choose a different particular system. And that we invest in the education that is needed to build the human capacity to transform the world. So I thank our hosts for giving us this opportunity to have this conversation and to make sure that over the next 2 days, we don't just think about capital and goods, but that we think of the humanity of tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and indeed thank you to all our heads of state and government for their speeches. I would like to welcome to the stage now Her Excellency Amina J. Mohammed, Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations.
Her Excellency Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission, our Chair of the African Union, President Lorenzo, Excellencies, friends, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just start by saying I think I just ended a drought. It's a woman up here. It is an honor to join you here today on behalf of the Secretary General. President von der Leyen, I thank you for your leadership and for convening the Second Global Gateway Forum. I also thank you for your engagement at the United Nations General Assembly and your commitment to peace, to justice, to human rights and solidarity. The European Union and the United Nations were both born out of the ashes of a devastating war. Our partnership has delivered from humanitarian responses to climate action to the protection of human rights. And the EU-UN Spotlight Initiative stands as proof because it was the largest global effort to end violence against women and girls. Together, we're now driving the twin green and digital transitions, shaping the Global Digital Compact, co-chairing the UN panel on critical minerals, and expanding digital access for children in Kenya. Our partnership has been central to so many achievements across pillars, and we do not take it for granted. Today, this partnership has never been more relevant or more necessary. The Global Gateway provides a perfect opportunity to scale up investments and to deepen the partnerships across the whole world. Sadly, conflict is spreading, inequalities are deepening, and climate shocks are intensifying. And we just had the Prime Minister of Grenada remind us that the Charter was in fact about we the people. But these headwinds are not insurmountable. We have the roadmap to overcome them, the 2030 Agenda, the Paris Agreement, and more recently, the Pact for the Future, that provide clear pathways forward. We also have the tools. Ours is an age powered by science, technology, and innovation, from renewables to AI, to life-saving advances in health and in agriculture. So now really is the time to use them for our challenges and as opportunities. 3 imperatives stand out. First, that sustainable development requires finance, but it requires it at scale. It requires it with a sense of urgency. Official development assistance remains critical, but it's a small fraction of what the world needs. The SDG financing gap exceeds $4.2 trillion a year. ODA must be leveraged to unlock the partnerships of the private sector, international financial institutions, and innovators. Help us to create those enabling environments that we're often told that we lack. We must ensure that women-led enterprises and youth innovators can access that financing, because inclusive growth does depend on inclusive investment. The Severe Commitment provided a catalogue of recommendations that we must bring to fruition. The G20 leadership of South Africa has underscored the importance of debt, but also in their recent work on the cost of capital, the necessity for putting that at the center of the discussions that we have in these 2 days. The second reflection on climate, the goal of limiting long-term warming to below 1.5 degrees Celsius must continue to guide all our actions, even as we cross that threshold. Just a few weeks ago, over 100 parties to the Paris Agreement came together at the UN Climate Summit to reaffirm their climate ambitions. And this was representative of 80% of those emissions. The Climate Summit demonstrated that many countries are stepping up, but not yet at the pace or the scale that's needed. Ahead of COP30, every country should finalize their NDC as soon as possible. Belém must succeed in doing a number of things delivered to keep credible the plan for 1.5, including the mobilization of $1.3 trillion annually in climate finance by 2035, and also providing developing countries with clear signals on how to exceed their targets and seize the opportunities in the clean energy transition. The third is perhaps the most important. On peace, we must ensure respect for the rule of law and the territorial integrity. In Europe, communities are shattered by the war in Ukraine. In Sudan, hundreds and thousands of civilians remain trapped under siege. Famine conditions persist, and humanitarian supplies cannot reach those in desperate need. In Gaza, countless civilians have been deprived of food, water, and medicine while facing relentless bombardment. We need an immediate and a permanent ceasefire, the immediate and unconditional release of all our hostages, and the unfettered humanitarian access. Recent developments offer a glimmer of hope, and all parties must seize this opportunity to bring the conflict to an end. We commend the untiring efforts of the United States, of Qatar, of Egypt, and Turkey, but also the voice of South Africa in ensuring that we bring to justice all those who should be. Meeting these 3 imperatives, finance, climate, and peace, demands genuine partnerships, exactly what the Global Gateway itself represents. Its 360-degree approach recognizes what truly drives impact, combining infrastructure with investments in quality education, decent jobs, good governance, and human rights. Digital connectivity becomes a gateway to health and social protection. Clean energy becomes a catalyst for economic growth. With only 5 years left to 2030, the Global Gateway can accelerate progress to the SDGs on the ground. In 122 countries, UN resident coordinators and EU ambassadors work side by side. Together, we believe that we can align the policies across sectors. We can strengthen institutions and build local capacity and systems.
We can unlock innovative financing with development banks and private capital. We embed standards that reduce risk, and we can bring everyone to the table: our governments, business, academia, and civil society. This, we believe, is how we turn cooperation into prosperity, where people can see, they can feel, they can touch. President von der Leyen, Excellencies, the Global South, as we heard our leaders today, is not waiting to be rescued. It is shaping a new narrative on its own terms. Today, we've heard that affirmation and we've heard the solutions that have been put forward. We need to match those ambitions with increased action and ensure that the Global Gateway is a bridge to sustainable development, to equality, and to human dignity for all. The World Social Summit in Doha will ask whether we're truly ready to put those values into practice. The stakes have never been higher or more urgent. The UN stands as your partner in this meeting at the moment, but also in bringing the voice of our 193 nations to this vital task. Finally, inspired by what leaders I heard today, if the world has taught us anything in the past few years, it is that dependency has been painful. For the time that we recovered from COVID, from the war in Ukraine and the security of food and energy that was put on the line, Sudan and Gaza, where humanitarian aid has enabled that things have fallen apart. But it's also told us that when we came together, we could produce the pandemic treaty, that the World Bank has M300 that will connect with electricity across Africa, 300 million. The energy transitions, and today the Global Gateway signals genuine partnership of interdependence where everyone wins. Finally, on women's leadership, I started on the drought, but I'd like to applaud the vision, but also the leadership of Ursula von der Leyen. You have lived your courage of convictions, and we look to you, and many stand on your shoulders. But we also need to celebrate in Beijing +30 this year that women must be at the tables in business, at the tables in peace, at the tables in every corner that will allow that half of our humanity that is underinvested. For no bird will fly on one wing. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your insight and words. We are now at our final speaker for this morning's opening session, so it is my pleasure to introduce to you His Excellency Ajay Banga, President of the World Bank Group. Thank you.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I am very conscious of the fact that I'm between you and the chance to get a break, so I'm going to try and keep it quick and short for you. A number of the countries and private sector players and civil society here are partners of ours. And so, Madam President, I'm delighted to have the opportunity to be a part of this group with you. I think the Global Gateway is the right thing at the right time. And let me tell you why. There is a conference right now of ambition and arithmetic. 1.2 billion young people in the emerging markets will become ready for a job in the coming 15 years. The same emerging markets are currently forecasted to produce 400 million jobs for them. Those estimates could be wrong because they're made by economists like us. But they will not be wrong by 800 million. If you want to do something about the future of our world, because that generation is the power of our future. They will drive markets, they will drive consumption, they will drive growth for the Western world, they will drive the opportunity for our companies, for our technology, for our intellectual property. For the countries there, they will drive prosperity and quality of life for their citizens. This is what every politician promises to their citizens: quality of life and jobs. 800 million people may not have that opportunity. It is really important for all of society to think about those like the Prime Minister of Grenada just said. My view is that to create jobs for them, we cannot do it the way Ursula said, only with government money, only with multilateral bank money. We have to get the capital, the ingenuity, the innovation, the technology, the urgency of the private sector to come to play at the table. To do that well requires partnership. To do partnership well requires us to all understand we can't do it alone. And so what I'm saying for the World Bank Group, what we've been doing is very clearly in the job space, two sets of thinking. The first one is, how do you create jobs and growth in an economy? First, you must have infrastructure, not just physical, bridges, roads, airports, electricity, digitization, but human capital, skilled and educated and healthy. Second, you must have the environment in that country for businesses to prosper, rules, regulations, ways of operating and governance. And third, you need the catalytic capital for the private sector. Our institution, like many others like us, the EBRD is here, others are here, EIB, we have the ability to provide all parts of that puzzle. IBRD and IDA, a number of my friends here in the governments know, we provide work on the infrastructure, both physical and human. Our Knowledge Bank provides the capacity for those rules, but we also provide performance-based financing for those rules to be implemented. And then finally, IFC and MIGA provide the catalytic capital. That's one set of things. The second set is, we cannot keep creating jobs in the emerging markets, which essentially look to outsource jobs from the Western world to provide for this capacity. That model will not continue to work. There is a political challenge in the developed world around that model. And therefore, you have to find sectors that are locally relevant jobs for those countries. What are those? Infrastructure, its construction, and then what it enables. Second, agriculture for small farmers. Very important, very critical for their productivity and to stay doing what they're doing on a farm. Third, primary healthcare and its delivery. Fourth, tourism. And fifth, value-added manufacturing of the type you heard from many here, including minerals and metals. A lot of what the World Bank Group is announcing for the last 2 years are exactly in these spaces. 300 million people in Africa to be connected to productive baseload power, not just one light and one fan, but the ability to be productive. Affordable baseload energy. Second, 1.5 billion people to be connected to primary health care. Think of the jobs for nurses, medical diagnostic technicians, and midwives that we can create. Third, focus on agriculture. We're going to put $9 billion a year into agriculture. It's the focus of our annual meeting next week, along with $5 billion of private capital mobilization. This is our route, and this is the partnership that I'm so proud to be participating in with the European Union. We are going to function with 18 such projects across the developing world, in Africa, in Latin America, and in Asia, focused on energy, focused on transport, focused on digitization. Partnership. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much indeed, and thank you to all our wonderful leaders and speakers this morning. We have all been inspired by the speeches today, but we've heard more than speeches. I hope today will be remembered as a historic moment where the hand of friendship and partnership has been extended, a moment where the positive agenda of interdependency, integration, and mutual respect came out stronger than tensions and strife. Now, of course, the forum is not over, and this afternoon and tomorrow we will see signing ceremonies as well as networking and bilateral meetings as well as panel discussions on the stage. However, I would ask now, as we allow our leaders and those seated in the first 2 rows to leave, for everybody else to kindly remain seated. I have more information for you in a moment regarding lunch, but please, a round of applause for our dear leaders as they leave the room.